From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. On the top story, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said that the creation of an independent body to investigate flood control anomalies will be finalized very soon. President Marcos made the remark when asked whether Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong would be part of the independent panel that would look into the alleged irregularities in the implementation of flood control projects. Newly installed Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon said the initial findings of the agency's internal committee formed to investigate flood control projects under scrutiny would be transmitted to the independent fact-finding body. This, as Dizon said, the DPWH internal investigation team for flood control projects would be abolished within the day. Dizon also welcomed Magalong's possible inclusion in the independent investigating body. Magalong earlier submitted to President Marcos the documents detailing the alleged irregularities in the implementation of flood mitigation projects. Dizon said that in the coming days, he would conduct site inspection in areas where flood control projects have been implemented.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Bureau of Customs, or BOC, has secured all 12 luxury vehicles which were subject of a search warrant at the residence of the Discaya family in Pasig City. 10 vehicles were initially unaccounted for when the BOC served the search warrant at the St. Gerard Construction General Contractor and Development Corporation's compound in Pasig City Tuesday morning. Later in the day, 7 of the vehicles had been surrendered to the BOC and are now secured at the firm's compound. The car fleet includes a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Bentley Bentayga, Mercedes-Benz G500, Mercedes-AMG G63 AMG, Toyota Tundra, Toyota Sequoia, and Cadillac Escalade. BOC Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno said the last 3 vehicles, a GMC Yukon Denali and 2 Lincoln Navigator, are in service centers for repair and would be surrendered to the BOC. Earlier in the day, the BOC uncovered 2 luxury vehicles, a Toyota LC 300 3.3 V6ZX at SUV 2024 and a Maserati Levante Modena 2022 covered by the search warrant issued by the Regional Trial Court of Manila Branch 18. The BOC sealed all vehicles and are under round-the-clock guarding by personnel of the BOC and the Philippine Coast Guard. Nepomuceno said he would review the vehicles' import records to check compliance with customs laws.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. urged Filipinos to rediscover and reclaim their country's marine identity, emphasizing that defending the oceans is critical not only to sovereignty but also to the country's survival and legacy for the next generation. The president said that the Philippines' future has always been linked to the sea, which has characterized as a cradle of wealth and a place of struggle across time. President Marcos said that effective maritime governance is critical for resource management, community safety, and national sovereignty. He urged agencies to integrate science and law, communities to embrace stewardship as an identity, and leaders to govern with foresight beyond their own time. The president's request come as tensions rise in the West Philippine Sea, where Chinese warships have increased their presence within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Manila has frequently denounced China's aggressive efforts, with MPs pressing the president to raise the issue at the United Nations General Assembly later this month in accordance with the 2016 arbitral verdict that favored the Philippines.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. pledged on Tuesday to restore the country's status as a global shipbuilding hub, citing the revival of Subic Shipyard through HD Hyundai Heavy Industries Philippines Incorporated as the first step toward reclaiming its place among the world's top shipbuilding nations. The president said that from 2014 to 2018, the Philippines was among the world's top 5 shipbuilders, generating between 1.2 million and 2 million gross tonnage of boats per year. This momentum faded in 2019 when Hyundai Heavy Industries Company Philippines Incorporated, or HHIC Phil, which previously employed over 30,000 people, declared bankruptcy, leaving the Subic shipyard idle and thousands unemployed. With Hyundai's return under a reform corporation, President Marcos believes Subic is now set for a turnaround. The shipyard's capacity is planned to increase from 1.3 million to 2.5 million deadweight tons, tripling its ability to handle 4 to 5 huge tankers to up to 8. President Marcos estimates that by 2030, the yard will employ approximately 4,300 Filipinos. The president also emphasized the government's collaboration with the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, to supply the industry with competent individuals. Since November 2024, TESDA has built a training hub in Subic alongside Hyundai, graduating welders and providing scholarships in marine trades. There are now 16 specialized programs available to ensure that Filipino shipbuilders match global standards. The Philippines continues to be a marine labor powerhouse, accounting for over 30% of all seafarers worldwide. President Marcos said that expanding domestic shipbuilding together with the country's competent seafaring personnel would transform the Philippines into a complete maritime nation.
For decades, even centuries, the Philippines has given the world our finest seafarers. It is only fitting that we also supply the world with excellent vessels to sail on. As president, I take great pride in Filipino hands navigating the world's oceans. 30% of the world's seafarers are Filipino. These are diligent men and women whose skill and dedication keep the seafaring industry moving every single day. And to make this partnership succeed, we are working to match Hyundai's investment with a skilled workforce worthy of their trust. Today, we will begin reclaiming our rightful place among the world's great shipbuilding nations. I am excited to see where this endeavor will take us. Together, let us show the world that Filipinos have the skills, the vision to navigate the uncertain waters of an ever-changing world.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
A milestone declaration seeking stronger protection for seafarers was adopted in a Philippine government-led conference in Manila on Tuesday. The Manila Declaration on Seafarers' Human Rights, Safety, and Well-being outlines 8 commitments that advance sailors' welfare amid the risks they face at sea, including global health crisis and conflicts. Philippine Permanent Representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Carlos Soreta, presented the outcome document at the International Conference on Seafarers' Human Rights, Safety, and Well-being at the Manila Diamond Hotel. The 8 commitments include upholding human rights at all times, fully enforcing the Maritime Labor Convention, improving crisis preparedness, and respecting seafarers' right to refuse to sail in high-risk areas without reprisal. It also promotes corporate human rights due diligence, women empowerment, just transition, amid digitalization and decarbonization, and harness international cooperation for maritime education and training. As of this posting, 10 countries have formally endorsed the declaration: Bangladesh, Germany, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Philippines, Spain, and the United Kingdom. The Philippine government encourages all maritime industry stakeholders, foreign governments, and representatives of seafarers and ship owners groups to endorse the document. Soreta said Manila will try to get as many adherents to the declaration as possible and see what possible next steps to take from there. The international forum, held from September 1 to 3, gathered more than 200 delegates from at least 40 countries. Also present during the opening and closing ceremonies were Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, Maritime Industry Authority Administrator Sonia Malaluan, and Philippine Permanent Representative to the International Maritime Organization, Ambassador Teodoro Locsin Jr. The Philippines, as a primary source of sea-based workers, has long been a champion of seafarers' rights. It has repatriated dozens of seafarers affected by the persistent Houthi attacks on Red Sea over the past years. Prior to the Manila Declaration, the Philippines also sponsored the historic UN Human Rights Council resolution that was adopted in 2024 as the first ever document that recognized the role of seafarers in the society.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the country is 80% closer to achieving universal health care for all Filipinos, citing progress in building a system for accessible, affordable, and quality medical services. This as President Marcos visited Bataan General Hospital and Medical Center in Balanga, Bataan to assess the implementation of the Zero Balance Billing or ZBB program. President Marcos said zero balance billing is now implemented in 78 government-run hospitals, adding that around 2,976 patients from Bataan General Hospital and Medical Center are already benefiting from the program. He also lauded the Bataan General Hospital and Medical Center for the successful implementation of zero balance billing by ensuring that patients are discharged without having to pay out of pocket. President Marcos said he is committed to fulfilling his aspiration for a successful universal healthcare system. He also assured healthcare workers of continued government support. Under the ZBB program, all members of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation admitted to basic or ward accommodations in Department of Health hospitals will not incur any out-of-pocket expenses for their hospitalization.
We are now in Bataan for the Bataan General to look at how the system is working. Meron silang bagong feature dito sa Bataan General. Imbis na, zero billing pa rin, pero imbis na pipila sa kahera ang pasyente bago ma-discharge. Pag malapit na ma-discharge yung pasyente, hinahatid sa kanila yung kanilang zero billing. Another added convenience which I think we should adopt all around the country. And that's why I'm very happy that we are instituting this program. I think it's been a long time coming. And I'm glad. Malapit na tayo umabot talaga sa universal healthcare. We are 80% of the way. Kulang na lang, kaunti na lang. At matutupad na natin yung universal healthcare. My aspiration, of course, is to achieve the dream of universal healthcare for all our people. It's just a question of building up the economy so we can afford it, number one, and putting in the systems. The systems are all in place. Alam nyo naman mga health workers natin, mga doktor natin, mga nurse, wala nang kasing sipag sa mga yan.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Budget and Management or DBM released a total of 6.767 billion pesos to cover the payment of public health emergency benefits and allowances or PHEBA of medical workers. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman approved the release of funds which will cover a total of 1,411,546 PHEBA claims from 2021 to 2023 from local government units and private health facilities, state universities, and other institutions in the country. The fund was charged against the Strengthening Assistance for Government Infrastructure and Social Programs or SAGIP under the Unprogrammed Appropriations of 2025 General Appropriations Act, the DBM said. To recall, the national government authorized the grant of benefits and compensation to healthcare workers or HCWs and non-healthcare workers or non-HCWs who rendered service during the state of public health emergency due to the coronavirus pandemic. The DBM allotted and released to the Department of Health or DOH a total of 121.325 billion pesos to fund the Special Risk Allowance, Health Emergency Allowance or one COVID-19 allowance, COVID-19 sickness and death compensation, and other benefits like meal, accommodation, and transportation allowances. In 2024, the DOH requested additional funds amounting to 27.453 billion pesos to fully cover the requirements of the PHEBA program. The DOH, however, presented an updated request for additional funds amounting to 6.727 billion pesos during the monthly economic managers meeting on February 17, 2025. Pangandaman called on the DOH to expedite the distribution of the health benefits and allowances of HCWs and non-HCWs.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman vowed to the public of a greater executive-legislative collaboration and rigorous scrutiny as Congress prepares to hold a bicameral conference committee on the proposed national budget for 2026. Pangandaman said that the Department of Budget and Management or DBM would closely monitor bicameral procedures to preserve the people's budget from arbitrary realignments and to keep spending priorities consistent with the Marcos administration's national goal. The budget chief made the remarks in response to Senator Panfilo Lacson's concerns about questionable realignments in previous budget cycles, particularly in the 2025 budget when the education sector's budget was surpassed by the Department of Public Works and Highways, which is now under fire for alleged anomalies in its multi-billion-dollar flood control projects. Pangandaman said that while the DBM no longer has jurisdiction over the General Appropriations Bill, once it reaches the bicameral level, the agency will collaborate with the House Secretariat and the Legislative Budget Research and Monitoring Office to provide real-time technical validation of proposed modifications. Pangandaman also state her desire for an open and transparent bicameral process, including live stream hearings and the release of amendment matrices with reasons.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Education or DepEd lauded President Marcos' administration's historic proposed budget allocation for the education sector. This comes after Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and the Department of Budget and Management or DBM earmarked 1.224 trillion pesos for education under the proposed 2026 National Expenditure Program or NEP. In a statement, Education Secretary Sonny Angara said the proposed allocation marks a historic first as it complies with the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization or UNESCO standards, securing 4% of the country's gross domestic product or GDP. Of the proposed fund for next year, the largest share is allocated to DepEd, amounting to 928.52 billion pesos, which is 18.9% higher than the department's budget under the 2025 General Appropriations Act or GAA. The proposed 2026 NEP allocates 115.4 billion pesos for school operations support, the senior high school voucher program, and the school-based feeding program, among others. To address the perennial classroom shortage, 41.6 billion pesos will be allotted for the construction, repair, and rehabilitation of classrooms and programs under the Basic Education Facilities Fund. For additional manpower to ease teachers' workload, 15.4 billion pesos is proposed for the creation of plantilla posts, including project development officers and administrative officers. The proposed funding for the computerization program is 13.8 billion pesos. The remaining allocations for DepEd's attached agencies are 840.9 million pesos for the National Museum of the Philippines, 251.1 million pesos for the National Academy of Sports, 207.5 million pesos for the Teacher Education Council, 160.7 million pesos for the Philippine High School for the Arts, 156.6 million pesos for the National Book Development Board, and 72.6 million pesos for the National Council for Children's Television. Apart from DepEd, the proposed budget also allocates 134.99 billion pesos for state universities and colleges or SUCs, 34 billion pesos for the Commission on Higher Education or CHED, and 20.24 billion pesos for the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Agriculture, RDA, ruled out price spikes on retail rice, given an ample local supply and a temporary import ban which took effect on September 1. In a phone interview, DA spokesperson Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa said the country has a strong rice inventory despite the 60-day rice import halt, which runs until October 30. As of August 28, the country logged 2.8 million metric tons of rice import arrivals since January, according to the Bureau of Plant Industry or BPI. About 264,000 metric tons of imported rice arrived from 210 sanitary and phytosanitary import clearances or SPSIC issued for 28 days of August alone. The Mesa said the arrival of the imports last August is still not done and there are still expected arrivals for November to December. The local palay and has rice production, meanwhile, stood at a historic high during the dry harvest season, hitting 9.8 million metric tons during the first half of 2025, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA. The DA earlier projected that the country is likely to gain at least 11 million or MT of palay output for the wet harvest season and may even surpass the 11.38 million metric tons for the second semester of the year. The Mesa, meanwhile, said the prevailing price range of imported rice is still pegged between 42 pesos to 45 pesos per kilogram based on their recent market watch, with the maximum suggested retail price for 5% broken imported rice set at 43 pesos per kilogram. As of August 29, the premium imported rice in Metro Manila ranges from 42 pesos to 52 pesos per kilogram, while local premium rice is priced between 42 pesos to 60 pesos per kilogram, according to the Department of Agriculture's Bantay Presyo.
Dateline Malacañang.
Finally, for Dateline Malacañang, the Philippine Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD has deployed more social workers and support personnel to the new processing center for its assistance to individuals in crisis situation or AICS program, reinforcing efforts to provide faster and more efficient service to thousands of Filipinos in crisis and who are seeking aid each day. The DSWD transferred on July 31 the AICS processing center from the agency's central office in Batasan to the Commonwealth Satellite Office in Paragon Place, Quezon City to provide a more comfortable and accessible venue for beneficiaries. Assistant Secretary Juan Carlo Marquez, the DSWD's co-spokesperson, said the additional personnel ensure that clients can be properly assisted at the new processing center. The DSWD also continues to implement measures to cut waiting time, including the streamlining of procedures. The 3 steps now consist of securing a queue number, interview and assessment by social workers, and release of assistance. Marquez said these reforms are part of Secretary Rex Gatchalian's directive to ensure efficient delivery of assistance and upholding the comfort and dignity of clients undergoing difficult times.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this has been Bea Gaza-de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila. Dateline Malacañang.